Indianapolis, Indiana, September 16, 1988. Inside St. Vincent Hospital, a 17-year-old girl is struggling to breathe. Her name is Rebecca Suzanne Bell. Everyone calls her Becky. Her parents are nearby, frightened and confused. They have been told their daughter has severe pneumonia. They know she is critically ill, but they do not know she is pregnant. They do not know she recently went looking for an abortion. And they do not know that according to the official medical findings, an infection connected to a septic abortion is spreading through her body. Before the night is over, Becky Bell will be dead. Her parents will learn the truth from the county coroner, and a law they had never heard of will become the center of their lives. To understand what happened, we have to go back several weeks. Becky had recently turned 17 and was preparing for her senior year of high school. Her family remembered her as creative and affectionate. She played in the school band, wrote poetry, and enjoyed caring for children. She was not a political activist. She was not trying to become a national symbol. She was a teenager facing a problem she believed she could not reveal to anyone. Becky was pregnant. The pregnancy appears to have been unexpected, and she was terrified of telling her parents. That fear might seem strange, because Bill and Karen Bell were not distant parents. They described their family as close and openly affectionate. They took vacations together. They said, "I love you" every day. When Becky had struggled with a drug problem the previous year, she had gone to her parents and asked for help. They placed her in a treatment program. But according to Karen Bell, during that crisis, she and her husband had also told Becky not to disappoint them again. They could not have known how heavily a sentence like that might sit inside the mind of a frightened teenager. Now Becky was pregnant, and in her mind, telling her parents did not feel like asking for help. It felt like destroying the way they saw her. Becky and a friend visited a Planned Parenthood clinic in Indianapolis to ask about an abortion. That was when she learned about Indiana Public Law 106. The law required anyone under 18 to obtain the consent of a parent before receiving a legal abortion. There was another option. A teenager could go to court and ask a judge for permission instead. This process is commonly known as a judicial bypass. On paper, Becky had choices: tell a parent, stand before a judge, continue the pregnancy, or travel somewhere with different requirements. But laws do not operate only on paper. They operate inside real people, with real fear, shame, and confusion. Imagine being 17 years old. Imagine walking into a courthouse alone and explaining your pregnancy to an adult stranger sitting above you in a courtroom. Imagine wondering who might see you enter the building. Imagine believing that one phone call could bring your entire secret crashing down. Becky apparently did not believe she could face that process. Kentucky was roughly 100 miles away, and abortion clinics there were another possibility. After her death, her parents found Kentucky clinic telephone numbers among her belongings. But there is no confirmed record that Becky ever reached one of those clinics. Her friends later described her moving between different plans. Maybe she would travel to Kentucky. Maybe she would continue the pregnancy and arrange an adoption. Maybe she would run away. She was not following a clear plan. She was panicking. At some point, Becky reportedly told a friend, "I can't tell mom and dad. I love them too much." That sentence became the emotional center of the entire case. She was not silent because she hated her parents. She was silent because she loved them and feared losing their love. Then, one weekend in September, Becky left home after telling her parents she was going to a party. When she returned, something was wrong. She was ill, distressed, and apparently unwilling to explain what had happened. Exactly where she went remains unknown. No doctor, clinic, or individual was ever conclusively identified as having performed an abortion. It is also possible that Becky attempted to end the pregnancy herself. That uncertainty matters. It would be irresponsible to invent a secret clinic, an unnamed stranger, or a specific method, merely to make the story more dramatic. The truth is disturbing enough. Something happened during that period. Then, Becky became extremely sick. Over the following days, her condition deteriorated. She developed a high fever and serious breathing problems, but she resisted receiving medical attention. Her parents did not know about the pregnancy, so they could not understand what they were seeing. Eventually, they insisted that she visit the family doctor. The doctor diagnosed severe pneumonia and sent her to the hospital. By then, the infection had advanced dangerously. On September 16, 1988, Becky Bell died. She had been 17 for less than a month. Her parents entered the hospital believing their daughter had pneumonia. They left knowing that she had also been pregnant. The official cause of death was recorded as septic abortion complicated by pneumonia. In medical terms, this meant that a severe infection associated with the end of the pregnancy had overwhelmed her body. The manner of death was listed as undetermined because investigators could not establish exactly how the pregnancy had ended, or who, if anyone, had performed a procedure. The Marion County coroner later said he believed the evidence overwhelmingly indicated that Becky had undergone an induced abortion. A forensic pathologist involved in the case also defended the conclusion that she most likely experienced an illegal abortion. Anti-abortion organizations disputed that interpretation. They argued that Becky could have suffered a spontaneous miscarriage followed by an infection, and they pointed to the absence of certain injuries that might have revealed an instrumental procedure. That disagreement became part of the national political battle surrounding her name. But several core facts were not in dispute. Becky had been pregnant. She had sought information about abortion. She knew she needed parental consent or a judge's authorization to obtain one legally in Indiana. She was afraid to tell her parents. She died from a massive infection after the pregnancy ended. And her parents learned about the entire crisis only after she was gone. Bill and Karen Bell were devastated. They had believed that a parental consent requirement would cause a daughter to come to her family. Instead, their daughter had hidden the pregnancy, hidden her illness, and apparently hidden the procedure until it was too late to save her. Her father later asked, "Don't you think we would have wanted to know?" Of course they would have. That was the tragedy. A law intended to involve them had not actually given them knowledge. It had only made parental involvement a legal condition. The law could require Becky to obtain a signature. It could not make her feel safe enough to ask for one. Before their daughter's death, the Bells were not abortion rights campaigners. They came from a conventional Midwestern family and admitted that a parental consent law sounded reasonable to them. Many parents hear the phrase parental consent and think, "Of course I should know. Of course my child should come to me. Of course I would help." Bill and Karen Bell thought exactly the same thing. Then they discovered the painful limit of that argument. A loving parent may desperately want to help, but the law cannot guarantee that a frightened teenager will believe that help is available. The Bells began reconstructing Becky's final weeks through conversations with her friends and the objects she had left behind. Every discovery created another question. Why had she not trusted them? What had she believed they would do? Where had she gone that weekend? Why did she refuse medical treatment? And how could they stop another family from discovering a pregnancy through an autopsy report? In 1990, Bill and Karen Bell stepped before reporters at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. The quiet Indiana couple had become national activists. They joined a campaign opposing parental consent and notification laws. Bill temporarily left his job so that he and Karen could travel, speak to students, testify before lawmakers, and tell Becky's story. Their daughter's name appeared in newspapers across the country. Her case was investigated by 60 Minutes. It later inspired a television dramatization titled Public Law 106, The Becky Bell Story. To abortion rights advocates, Becky became evidence that parental involvement laws could drive the most vulnerable teenagers away from licensed medical care. To supporters of those laws, the case was more complicated. They argued that Indiana had offered a judicial bypass, and that Becky could have sought assistance from a judge, traveled to another state, or told a trusted adult. They also challenged the claim that the consent law itself had caused her death. Legally, that distinction is important. A statute did not physically create the infection that killed Becky, but the Bells were making a different argument. They believed the law had shaped the environment in which Becky made her decisions. It placed what she saw as frightening barriers between herself and legal medical care. And once she decided that she could not tell them, every path she considered became more secretive and more dangerous. This is what makes the Becky Bell case so difficult. It is not a story in which everyone agrees about the evidence. It is not proof that every parental involvement law will produce the same result. And it cannot tell us exactly what every frightened teenager will do. It is a warning about what can happen when public policy is built around an ideal family, rather than the family relationship a teenager believes she has at the moment of crisis. Some teenagers live with violence, abuse, or threats. Others have loving parents but are overwhelmed by shame. Fear does not always make sense to the people outside it. To Becky, disappointing her parents apparently felt unbearable, so she tried to carry the entire crisis alone. What strikes me most is that almost every protective structure seemed to exist around her. She had parents who loved her. She had legal clinics in her city. She had a judicial process available. She had clinics in another state. She had friends. But inside the mind of a terrified 17-year-old girl, none of those doors felt safe enough to open. And that is how a teenager can be surrounded by options and still believe she has none. Becky Bell should not be remembered merely as a political argument. She was not a court case. She was not a campaign slogan. She was a daughter who wrote poetry, played music, and expected to have a future. She made decisions while frightened, concealed a medical emergency, and died before the adults who loved her understood what was happening. Her parents spent years telling strangers the most painful story of their lives because they believed silence had already taken one daughter from them. Decades later, the central question remains: what should the law do when a teenager is too frightened to tell her parents? Should it attempt to force that conversation? Or should it ensure that the teenager can still reach safe, confidential medical care when the conversation does not happen? Reasonable people continue to disagree, but whatever position someone holds, Becky's story demonstrates one brutal reality. A law can demand communication. It cannot create trust. And when policy meets panic, an option that exists on paper may feel completely unreachable to the person who needs it most. On September 16, 1988, Becky Bell died without telling her parents what she was facing. They would spend the rest of their lives making sure the country heard it.